all of the extra stuff. All right. Oops, come on.
I already hit record while Karen's going live. Is Doug doing it or you, Karen?
Oh, I'm in the process of doing it.
Karen's doing it.
Great. Thank you, Karen, for doing this for us today. Karen is a senior sales coordinator on the cusp of QNMD any day now. Any day now. Karen,
We've been saying that a while.
once she gets there, she's gonna go straight to NMD because she has so much volume. So she knows what she's talking about. I'm excited to hear where this conversation goes.
Okay. Well, so I wanted to, let me do full screen so I can see you guys. Okay, so I'm not going to pull up share my screen yet because I don't want, that's kind of like cheating. I want to ask questions and see how you guys answer them. So I don't know who's new on here. Am I going to bore anybody? Has everybody like already been on here? Anyway, my story is, I can't even believe when I say this out loud, but almost 17 years ago, this May, it'll be 17 years that I got started on Juice Plus. And I got started because my best friend Barb had been on it for 2 years and she and her family loved it. They were on the Children's Health Study and I was pregnant with my first child. And she says, oh my gosh, you have got to get on this Juice Plus stuff. And I had been on vitamins my entire life. My mom was a nurse and that's what we knew. And it was always, if you guys have heard this before, we had like the huge hall, like bathroom closet was full of medicine, because it was all about treatment. It wasn't about prevention. My mom was a nurse, knew all about treatment. You know, if I ate too much junk and I had a stomach ache, she would give me Pepto-Bismol. She wouldn't be like, well, quit eating the Pop-Tarts and drinking soda. So it wasn't until I was sadly and I suffered from allergies and asthma and I was sick all the time and ear infections. I mean, it was terrible. So until I have to think about this. Got pregnant with my son at 36. And at 36 years old is when I started to learn about nutrition. So I wish that I could turn back time and learn about it earlier. So you guys that are younger than that, that's awesome. And when she told me about it, I didn't get it, right? Because I knew about medicine from my mom, but I went on it. I kind of was, yeah, okay, fine. I went on it and I couldn't believe the changes during the pregnancy. By the end of the pregnancy, I really thought I would get off of Juice Plus, and be like, okay, I'll take it during the pregnancy and then that's going to be it. And I had such changes. I didn't need my prescription medicine of the allergies, the asthma. I hadn't gotten sick. It just had been great. So then I thought, oh my gosh, well, maybe there's something to this. So I think I'll stay on it. And imagine if my body is, doing this great with the fruits and vegetables and those little capsules. Imagine if I actually ate better. So that's kind of what started my little journey of, one simple change. I started at 17 years ago with, cutting out soda was my first thing. And then I would cut out one thing and just get kind of used to that. So it's been a almost 17 year journey taking the product. It's been a long time, I think 15 years being a representative, but for years I treated this like a hobby. I mean, Barb and Sharon and Julie, everybody lovingly just kind of would be like, okay, whenever you're ready. And I would get a couple of customers. I would always get a couple of customers. And I remember getting a team member one time and I told Barb, I was like, yeah, I can't do this team member. You need to work with them. So it just was part of my NMD speech is going to be, you've always heard, ignorance is bliss, right? Those representatives that get started. And I know some of you guys are like this, where they get started and they're so excited and they get it that they talk to everybody and they go so fast in the company, right? Ignorance is bliss. I was simply ignorance. I just was, I didn't know what I had. I wish, again, I could turn back the clock, but everybody's in their own journey. So I'm okay with it. And so it's only been really since, I don't even know. I mean, probably the last 10 years that I've taken it more seriously, because it gave me the freedom to be able to stay at home with the kids, be able to be with both of my parents, as they were, ill and, dying from cancer and just different things. And so, and I have come and I will go fast and then all of a sudden I kind of burn out a little bit and I go a little bit slower, and that's just been kind of my journey. But I've never quit for more than a day or two. There's days that I quit, but I never quit long term, because guess what? with the position that I'm in, if I had quit 5 years ago, 10 years ago, where would I be? I'd be back in corporate America. That is the last thing I want, is to be back in corporate America. And even though I'm moving slowly ahead, I'm still moving ahead. You know, I'm not going backwards. So super excited about that. But one of the things, I know that we've talked about this a little bit. I was a salesperson for years and years. And I think that was kind of a little bit of a detriment to me, because I came into this knowing it all. I'm going to crush this. I'm a salesperson. I know how to sell. And as we all know now, nobody wants to be sold. Everybody wants to know that you care about them. And then the ditch the pitch. I've been listening to Ditch the Pitch, and I went, oh my gosh, if I had known this when I was a salesperson, I probably would have done better. So it's just so much learning. So I have had to totally change the way that, you know, I talk to people, and I have to listen more, which does not come easily for me. I'm a talker. So anyway, one of the first things I tell people, I have a new team member who just signed up yesterday, and I always try and impress upon them. And it's hard, because sometimes you guys know that, you know, we have people to get started and they want to know everything before they start talking to people, right? They get afraid. Well, what if they ask me this? Well, what if they, you know, ask me a question and I don't know it? And I go, great. You get them on the phone with me. You tell them that you're brand new and you don't know, and you get them on the phone with me, and we do a three-way call. So I always try and do that, but there's still reps that just get kind of frozen, right? They just freeze because they don't know the answer. So I want to go over today, and I'm not going to pull up my sharing my screen, because I want to ask the questions and see how you guys answer them, if anybody has any great answers to questions. Okay, so let me scroll through. I don't want to start with research. That's pretty hard hitting for a first question. Okay, so let me ask the question. This is all about, so if somebody says, why is Juice Plus different than vitamins? You know, oh, I'm taking all the, and I just heard this at a happy hour the other night. I went with a bunch of ladies, and I had to shut my mouth, because they're all talking about how they don't get sick, and they're on their elderberry, and they're on vitamin C, and they're on all these isolated supplements. And I so wanted to interject, and I just went, keep your mouth shut. Just keep your mouth shut. This is not the time. And it was really hard. So what do you guys say when you either have a prospect or you're in a group or something like that, and somebody talks about, well, I don't get sick, I'm on vitamins? Anybody? All right, Melody, you're popping up on my screen. What do you say?
Me?
I'm just going to start calling names, man. You don't even know.
I don't talk like you. I wait for the opportune time. You know, I mean, sometimes when you're in a group and they all have the same, you know, idea, they agree with each other, then it's harder for you if you're by yourself to interject that thing. But if they're like one-on-one, I'd probably do it.
So Karen, I can tell you what I say. I usually say that vitamins are chemically created, and they're very different from whole food, which is from nature. And obviously nature has thousands and thousands of nutrients in it. So obviously food is going to be a better source to get those types of nutrition in your body.
One thing I say is I eat my vitamins. I don't take vitamins. I start off with that.
I would say I would congratulate them for being so health conscious, first of all, and for staying healthy, because I think if I would start out by telling them the opposite of what they're saying, I think that kind of changes the energy a little bit. But when I congratulate them and say, wow, you know, you are really far ahead of so many people who know that they need more. And then I would say some of the things that you ladies already said, you know, that, well, I eat whole food nutrition because the body can recognize it better, and it doesn't have to work so hard to try to figure it out. So that's what I say. I hope that was clear. I don't know how the sound is coming through.
Like that.
Yeah, Lonnie.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I think there's so many, I think it does. It depends on the person. It depends on the energy in the room. I think that, you know, I love that, complimenting them. And then a lot of times I think it comes back to, you could ask some more questions, but then also giving them just something to think about instead of telling them. That's where I'm trying to learn and grow is, not just telling people something, but asking questions to make them think, oh, well, are your vitamins, NSF certified? I mean, just coming up with some questions that we know juice, but vitamins have research. Go ahead.
I have a quick, the question I usually ask is, because I had two old ladies, they were 99 years old, and I was trying to explain to the one about, the difference between vitamins and fruits and veggies. And the other one literally said, honey, where did we get our vitamins from before they put them in a bottle? So one little lady asked the other. And so I thought that was a good question. It's like, okay, so where did we get vitamins from? Where did they come from before they were put in a bottle? So that's a question that I asked.
Years ago, I feel like in our presentations, we used to ask that, and nothing can shut people up. It is really, really funny. Next time, I'm so glad you said that, because that reminded me. I used to say, well, do you know where vitamins come from? And I can't tell you how many people just stop because they can't even answer that question. And I'm like, they don't know, because they only know vitamins in a pill. They don't realize fruits and, the vitamins come from fruits and vegetables and phytochemicals. Like they just don't, they don't know. So I love that.
That is so scary how conditioned we are to think that chemicals is just a natural thing we should be consuming. Like, what are vitamins? I don't know. I just know I'm supposed to take them.
Well, because there's millions of dollars of advertising. That's what your doctor recommends. Like, it's coming from all angles. Nobody, the produce, like all the farmers can't afford to advertise, eat this instead of taking a vitamin. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's tough. So I love all those. I love all those answers. Let's see. Does Juice Plus replace the need to eat real fruits and vegetables?
No.
I get this a lot, and I'm mostly from men who don't want to eat fruits and vegetables.
No, it does not. But at the same time, how do you know that the fruits and vegetables that you're eating, if you purchase them in the store, especially during these times, are clean, are pure, have no herbicides, no pesticides, meet all the standards? How can, I asked on the earlier question you asked, I say, how many nutrients do you think are in an apple? Just an apple, not everything else that's contained in Juice Plus, but just an apple. How can you get everything that you need, by purchasing stuff in the store? So it bridges the gap. You should eat as many fruits and vegetables as you can, but is it humanly possible to actually do that? And right now, it's hard to even get a lot of those things. So, and it's cheaper. And I've done a market survey. I've gone to the grocery stores and I've taken the ingredients of Juice Plus and then figured out the portions, and I've found a price for them, and I list the price and I'll say, okay, just to get what you get in Juice Plus, this is what you have to pay every single day for one adult, but in Juice Plus, this is what you pay, and you get a child for free. So I show them some of the economics as well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people look at the cost, like they're like, oh my gosh, Juice Plus is so expensive than vitamins, so I think that's something. So I find, I try and turn the, can Juice Plus, I get a lot from men, so if I take these, I don't have to eat Juice Plus, and then I always just kind of laugh and make, a joke about it. And I actually had people over last night. I had a soup swap at my house, and there was 6 of us there. And one of the ladies, her husband became vegetarian 2 years ago when he had high cholesterol. And he says it's hereditary. He couldn't get it down. And when he did a lot of the research, he actually looked into the Dr. Dean Ornish, and he looked into other things, and he actually went vegetarian. And it's calmed down, and he exercises. I mean, he runs a lot. They're very athletic and very active family. And they're somebody that I've spoken to about Juice Plus in the past. And so last night I didn't really sell her, but it was interesting because almost everybody at the table had their own little Juice Plus story. And of course, when you have that many people on Juice Plus, the conversation always turns to Juice Plus. And she actually, I didn't even say anything to her. She just said, I think I want to try those, gummies because the kids aren't eating, enough vegetables. And so I ended up getting the children's health study for her husband and, one of her kids who's not eating vegetables. And it was interesting because I really had to, she's like, well, I don't know, my husband eats a lot of vegetables. And I really did well, I'm sure he does. He probably eats more than the average person. It can't, Juice Plus doesn't replace, but I always go into the whole variety. I said, look at the 3, bags of gummies over here. I said that you just tried. I said, that's nutrition from 30 different fruits and vegetables every day. I said, I know I've been to your house and you've got a lot of fruits and vegetables. I said, but they're always the same, So I think a lot of times trying to, compliment them with some of that stuff, but, point out also too, that, I eat a big salad every day. Sometimes I do a veggie smoothie, but it tends to be the same, fruits and vegetables. So.
I would also interject a personal story, talk about how my vegetable of choice was corn. And then as I started adding Juice Plus, now I'm eating Brussels sprouts, I'm eating broccoli. So it bridges a gap where it brings you on to more food and a variety of craving more of the good stuff.
Yeah, I did. I made a joke about that because I never years ago would thought that I would be eating kale and eating other things. But then I always try and make a joke because that's just me. I made a joke that, apparently my husband is broken because he's only added carrots in 17 years. It's, the metabolic reprogramming with Juice Plus is a little lost on him, but it works on a lot of other people. So anybody, I'm not following the chat, but is there anybody else that wants to say anything? I know there's a lot of stuff in there. You guys can actually say it out loud. You don't have to write it in the chat. Let's see. What else is this? I do want to talk about, so let's talk about the research because Sharon, I'm not going to lie, I was always intimidated by Sharon because she was so good at the research. And then I don't remember if it was her or Wendy Campbell. I feel like it was Sharon, and maybe she got it from Wendy Campbell, that said, just try and memorize the bullet points from the research summary. I don't feel like we talk about the research summary a lot anymore.
That was Sharon. That was Sharon. Yeah.
And that's what I did. So whenever I would do a table, it sounded like I would go beep, Juice Plus, helps support a healthy immune system, and it helps support a healthy, cardiovascular. Like I would just go boom, 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 protects your DNA. I would like literally run down bullet points of the research if somebody, seemed interested and wanted some of that information. So I don't know. Do you guys talk about the research to people? And if so, how do you bring it up?
I'm old school.
I used to talk about it. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Michelle. I already spoke.
Oh, no, I was just saying, I feel like I'm a little old school too, almost 10 years. So I do, because I felt like during that time, the research was so it really was one of the things that had people make the decision, yes, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take Juice Plus, hearing the research. And so I used to be like you, Karen. I used to be like, protects your DNA. It reduces oxidative stress. Like I could list them off, boom, 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 boom. And I still do, at times, I'll mention 2 or 3 really important ones to me, or depending on who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to someone that I know had a history of cancer in their family, or they did, I mention that we had a cancer study. If I know someone who's in the age of maybe getting pregnant or having pregnancies, I mention the pregnancy studies. I try to tailor the study to the person if I'm sharing. So I feel like it just gives, it's like the icing on the cake, is the research is just the icing on the cake for us.
And for me, just 2 years into being in Juice Plus, I know about the research, but it's never been suggested to learn the points so that you can just list them off. And so, this is a good learning instance for me.
Yeah, and that was easy for me to just learn bullet points, cardiovascular health protects your DNA. But to then all of a sudden, for some reason, I guess because I was, I felt like I had to learn so much, to try and learn a lot of the research studies felt overwhelming for me. But then I know Sharon too, again, probably said, well, pick a couple of your favorite. And I learned University of Maryland. You mean there's 2 or 3 that I learned. I love now the OBGYN, that one. Oh my gosh, from Texas, MD Anderson can't. So there's a couple of them that I know, and I feel like because they're so different and they hit such key points. So, but I feel like you, Michelle, like I feel like years ago, I talked about it all the time, but I feel like I don't feel like as many people seem to be as impressed by the research. They should, but I don't think they're looking for that. I think it's more testimonial. They know they're not eating fruits and vegetables. I just think it's more of on a basic level. We don't have to talk about the research as much anymore.
On
That's
top
so
of a,
true.
yeah, on top of a research, back it up with a downline, an upline that went through a certain situation. So you always follow up with somebody that's been there. Because I know I had a friend had cancer. I did send her to research, but I know Alicia had cancer also. So I backed it up and made sure that she understood. Somebody went through it. Somebody's taking Juice Plus, just to back up the story of the research.
Mm-hmm.
I think the dynamics have changed. In fact, I know they have. When I first came into the business almost 14 years ago, there were a lot of baby boomers. And a lot of baby boomers were on the recordings, and they were interested in the research. That was impressive to them. They wanted to know. Now it's a lot of much younger people, and some of them couldn't care less about the research. Some of them, okay, that sounds good. But like you said, it's, well, what did it do for you? And how do you feel about it? So it's interesting how things do change.
I still like talking about the research. And I kind of did the same thing Sharon did just on my own. When I started, they had a really nice research brochure that said a lot of details. So, I would be like, oh my gosh, King's College of London showed your antioxidant levels can go up in as little as a week. And I went through the University of Arizona immune system study because my kids had bad asthma. And that's the whole reason I started with sharing this, is because of our transformation from their asthma sick days to all of a sudden we could actually make events and have a life. So that was awesome. So yeah, I still bring the research up a lot when appropriate, and just kind of a key study depending upon the person.
Awesome.
I'll share on my age group, Karen. It's Kelly.
Okay.
So I think what's important, or like what stands out with my age group, is the fact that we have the NSF seal. So I think because at my age group at 28, 29 years old, 20s, they buy the greens powder, they buy all these shakes, they buy all these different supplements. And so hearing NSF, and I go into the, there's no filler powders, there's no green filler. If kale's on the label, kale's actually in the product. There's no mold, yeast, bacteria, it is food. And how many times do we hear that food is recalled? So the fact that it's super clean, I think that just like really speaks to my generation. And then also, I will say the research, but then going into, three things that set it apart, right? So food, NSF, research. So I really talk about NSF and the fact that it's food, because I think it was mentioned earlier, a lot of people my age too think they're, they work out and they eat asparagus and broccoli once a week and that they're healthy. So it's like, okay, well, that's great, but we need a variety and we usually eat the same thing. Juice Plus really is that variety every day. And so I think just those two things really speak to my age.
And I think that's kind of how it's turning, because I get more and more the, well, is it organic and what's in it? I get more what's in it and, whatever than I do research now. So it's kind of interesting. And I know Lonnie, here's a shameless plug for this Thursday in the Healthy Starts at Home. She and Sandy Stetter are going to be doing a nutrition detectives. And that's one of the things they're going to kind of talk about with the Juice Plus is, they're going to talk about reading labels. And with Juice Plus, oh my gosh, look at that label compared to other, products. And we have the NSF, everybody thinks organic is all that. And, the NSF really is better. So I don't know who has a great, I would love who has a great thing, I guess, using with NSF, like when you're talking to people and they say, oh, is this organic? Because there's people that seem to be really stuck on organic.
Yeah, matter of fact, someone I spoke to today, a new prospect or hopeful, she is young. She took my class this morning and she is 24 years old with terrible rheumatoid arthritis. And so I was just talking to after class, I wanted to speak to her, to find out how long she was dealing with this. And she's been dealing with it for about 3 years now. And then, I asked her, what is she doing nutritionally? So I did talk about the NSF with her because I wanted her to know the difference, because like you said, some younger people, they're already taking stuff. And so I told her that two of the biggest differences is, number one, the big variety, and that they're picked at their full peak and all the nutrients are preserved. But the fact that it's NSF certified, I said, even with everything being organic, you don't know what happens after it's picked. And so this one guarantees that you have no contaminants in there, no molds. It guarantees that what they say is in there is actually in there. So I utilized that today. I spoke a little bit about the research because she's dealing with systemic inflammation, but she was like really happy and really looking forward to getting the information. So yeah, those are the two things I used as far as research and NSF.
One of the things that I found looking at the FDA and how they what do you call it, qualify or do for organic, is that on their website, you can get something certified organic and they won't come back and look at your product for 3 years. So, one of the things that I share is that, Juice Plus products, pretty much every batch is checked. And yet, you can get an organic certification, do everything, and it's basically a paper trail. And you can do that and get certified and be a company who really doesn't care about the quality of the product as much. So you really don't know. And then the FDA does allow for certain pesticides and herbicides. So I try to help them to understand a little bit more about organic, depending on, because that's just such a buzzword, and I'm very gentle because I don't want to, I know those people are just really, who even ask about organic, they're feeling like they really know something more, and you have to be really careful. But I said, well, my husband, being that he's a physician and a researcher, I'll always reference him as the one who's looked at the FDA and talk a little bit about how, that 3 years, you don't know what's been done with that product. So
I love that. I was looking at my phone because I know Lonnie, and maybe one of you guys knows. I'm not an expert with like organic, because I always come back to, and that's one of the things I love, right? We don't have to be an expert in all of this stuff. We have to be more of an expert with Juice Plus, because it's nobody's going to get upset for you to go, well, I really don't know about that, but let me tell you about Juice Plus, and then you can take that information and look into what you're taking or you're doing. But I know with organic, I feel like she said something like, with organic, they'll test the product, what I mean? Maybe it's like what you said, Gwen, but even with like fruits and vegetables, they'll test it one time or, whatever, and then that's it. But with NSF, we're always we test it, I think she said 3 to 6 times or, whatever it is. So it's just so much more thorough, and they test for so many other things.
Yeah, it's a couple of things.
I'm sorry?
Sorry. Yeah, it's a couple of things there, because they test the soil, they test the seedlings, and they spot check, and they test, of course, the finished product. And then, of course, the final one is within the human trials. And all of those are done, which makes it so much different. And for me, the people that I talk to, a lot of them are in that I know I'm healthy, I'm vegan, I'm vegetarian. So I always come from the approach that that none of us is getting what we think we're getting. I didn't know. I thought I was getting what from juicing, but it didn't make a difference with my pain and arthritis until I added the Juice Plus over time. And however, now more than ever, I am working at not having the answer, not knowing so much, but giving them the resource, guiding them to the resource where they can get the information, especially if they're hopeful that I would like to have in my business. I really want them to know that they don't have to know it all. We don't have to know it all. we get to know where the answers are. And that's a it's a challenge for those of us who know a lot about nutrition, because we want to just vomit all over them. We want to just give them the answer. Anyway.
It's more of a challenge for us that don't know
Can I
and
add to
talk
that?
too much.
What was that?
I said it's more of a challenge for us who don't know and still talk too much.
I think it's one of the times we can really talk about our community too. Because I've learned so much even as someone who's a nutrition practitioner being part of this community. So I usually lead with something like that. Like, being part of this community really helped me understand the difference between organic and NSF. Like, this is nothing that unfortunately we get to learn in the public eye, so, it makes sense that nobody understands it, because that's just the truth. Like, it's not out there, and then even the organic piece, and, Karen mentioned on the call on Thursday, we'll go into this, but like, if it says made with organic ingredients is different than if it's organic. Like, there's so many ways that we can get fooled and duped. So to really know and understand what that NSF means, like, that was a huge game changer for me when I learned, to look not even just in Juice Plus, but in other things that I use as well, to like really pay attention to NSF and why it's so important. So I always talk about community in that sense. Like, it's been such a blessing to learn so much more. Even though I thought I knew a lot, I've learned so much in this community. And that's the cool thing with food and nutrition, that it is ever changing and we have to constantly keep learning. I think that makes people feel less intimidated by something that they thought they knew that they don't. Like, it's not just them, all of us.
Right. I like
I
to
learned
say
stuff
we're learning so much.
I learned stuff putting together this. Right, like even putting the presentation for Thursday together, there was still information on there that I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. Like, what's happening? Like, if it says whole wheat on it, it means that 1% of that product can be whole wheat. Like, there's just so much stuff. So, we are all learning together. And
Karen, I was going to say,
yeah,
one of the things that I do is I ask them, if somebody says, well, is Juice Plus organic? Then you guys know me, I like to ask a question. So I'll ask them, what about being organic is important to you? So maybe they don't know, and they just think that they should be asking if it's organic, or I don't know how to address their concerns if I don't know what their concern is. So if I say, what about being organic is important to you? And they say, well, that there's no pesticides that are used. And I can say, yes, there are no pesticides used with Juice Plus. And even better, it goes through different layers of testing to make sure that there's no pesticides in the Juice Plus powders and in the product, which is way better than just an organic stamp because the farm didn't grow them. And then that's kind of, all I say, and they say, oh, okay. And then I'll say, this is NSF certified. So this certification shows and proves that there's no herbicides and pesticides in it. So you can rest assured that they're very cautious of that. And then usually that's enough and we move on. But if you don't know why that's of a concern, and if they don't either, then what your answer may not satisfy them, because that's not what their purpose in asking it was.
Yeah, I love that. The more questions that we can ask them and find out. I know that I tell a lot of my new reps as well, is that I would rather have, I've learned over the years, I would rather have that person that asks me 20 questions and really learns all about us, and then says, yes, you know what, I want to get started on this, than the people who go, oh, that sounds great. And then they get started on it, but they don't let me educate them. They don't have, and then within 4 months, they're not consistent. They're the ones that, I try to follow up with, they don't get back with me. I'm at the 4-month thing. Hey, are you ready for your shipment? No, I haven't taken it consistently. So I would much rather get comfortable and be able to, ask the questions, answer the questions, find out what their concerns are. And then, because that to me is more of a solidified, they've made an educated decision, as opposed to the people who just get all excited and then, they order. So, Does anybody have any other questions about, I know Jenny, you just unmuted. I don't know if you have something to say. I want to also get into the business because I know this is where I got kind of stymied for years is I became the customer queen, right? But I was afraid to get teams. So I want to talk about the business as well.
Okay. Yeah, I just had a quick question. I don't know if Nailani or someone can answer this, but I had a chiropractor ask me once about the GMP. Apparently, there's a good manufacturing practice seal that they look for. And to me, I think the NSF is more thorough in the little bit that I know, but coming from a doctor's viewpoint, I was just curious if any, like Nailani or Gwen would have any input on that. And then Karen too, if you could just, you are like the customer getting machine. And so if you could share like your tips or whatever on how you consistently get like 8-10 customers per month, I think that would be amazing because you are incredible.
I'll let Nalani go with a.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. The NSF is much more thorough, because like I said, it's not just a stamp and they spot check, they come unannounced and it's several times. They test the soil, they test the seedlings, they test the finished product, rather the produce, and then the finished product. And then on top of that, within the human body. So it's much more thorough.
Sorry, I'm texting. So I'm texting a new customer. I got a new customer last night and this morning.
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Appreciate that.
And I mean, I kind of see Sandy. So, I mean, sometimes I always say, I don't know. I go into every month thinking, I don't know who I'm going to get as customers. Like, honestly, I just, and by the middle of this month, I was kind of like, oh, I'm not doing so great. And then it kind of comes together. So I try not to stress out about it. It really is, for me, a numbers game. I try to talk to as many people as possible. I know I've said this, we've all said this before, right? And the Blitz has been great for this. When we did even the May Blitz and then the August one, I reached out to so many people. I don't know where my sheets are. I still have sheets of people that I need to follow up with. And the one lady who ordered from my website this morning, I don't even really know her that well. I don't remember how she's a Facebook friend. I met her from some group. And I think she's in one of the moms groups up here, and she probably mentioned something about health or her kids were sick. I really don't, I'd have to go back and look. And I mentioned Juice Plus to her and she was kind of thinking about it. No, okay, maybe. And I've honestly left her alone. She's in the Healthy Starts at Home group and I haven't followed up with her. And this morning she said, oh, I just want to let you know I placed an order, and it wasn't like she reached out to me before. So that was just kind of, a lucky one. And I guess I gave her enough information. She just needed time. She just needed time to make a decision, or she just needed time for her kid to keep getting sick. You know what I mean? And she was tired of it. So a lot of it's just a time thing. The customer last night is a neighbor of mine, and I've mentioned Juice Plus to her a couple of times. And I think just, having her in the situation last night where she was, with other people who had great stories about Juice Plus and great testimonials, those stories really are, phenomenal. That's, she decided to, get started. And so now and I'm not going to say challenge, now my job really with her is to seriously to educate them and the husband, because they are about eating fruits and vegetables. And I'm afraid that they're going to think that this is a supplement, because she even was kind of preparing me last night. Like, I don't know if, how long we're going to stay on this, and we might not be consistent. So I can already see. And so now I just need to educate them so they stay on it and they see, they see the difference. So that's going to be, that to me is, I think it's not getting the customers is great, but to me, keeping the customers is more important, because if you can keep the customers, then you don't need to get as many. And I lose customers, guys. I mean, I have a tremendous amount of customers, but I still lose customers because they aren't taking it consistently. They won't let me educate them. But it really is just reaching out to people. And, I don't even get that many referrals. I wish I could say I get a ton of referrals from people, but they love their Juice Plus and they say, oh, I talk to people, but nobody, ever comes back to me. So yeah, so I mean, it's really just me just bringing up conversation after conversation after conversation. And then Juice Plus, I'm trying to do more posting with Juice Plus. And what I really find is that, and we've talked about this 100 times too, I very, very rarely get anybody that will like or comment, but then they come around the back door and they send me a private message. Okay, what is this Juice Plus stuff? You know, okay, I'm ready to get started. So that, you know, that happens usually, you know, once or twice a month as well.
I'm glad you said pipeline, because a lot of us, I know for years, I didn't even know there was such a thing as a pipeline because I never came from sales like that. And I think that it's good for us to remember that it is, as you said, it is a huge numbers game. And if I think I'm working my business and I haven't even spoken to one or two people, but yet I'm posting and I'm doing all these things, or checking emails or whatever, they're not, my pipeline is going to dry up eventually. And so that list that we make when we first start, that's the beginning. But am I really adding to my list every day? Which is like putting them in the funnel in the top, and eventually one or two plop out at the bottom and they actually buy or they become a partner. So I'm glad you said that word pipeline, because it reminds me that that's what it's about. It's about talking to lots and lots and lots and lots of people, one at a time.
Yeah, because then you don't have, you know, when you first start and you've talked to 10 people, you're like, oh my gosh, nobody's signing up. And then I feel like I'm pestering them. Well, of course, because you've only got 10 people. You can't keep talking to the same 10 people all the time. So, yeah, it's just, you know, and I never feel, the other thing too, that, and I guess this is where my sales background does benefit me. There's a lot of shortcomings from coming from a sales background, but there is some benefits, as I am tenacious. My joke is I don't give up on them unless they get a restraining order on me. But I also sometimes forget about people, guys. Like I have talked to so many people that I could have been like Nalani and I've been like, oh my gosh, she's right on the fence. I'm going to get it. And it could be 3 months and all of a sudden I see something and I think, oh my gosh, I forgot to follow up with her. And there's a lot of people who then say they get embarrassed and they say, well, no, I can't follow up with her now. I forgot about her. And quite honestly, I always take, and I know I've said this on here before, I always kind of take the blame, where I'll, you know, reach out to them and say, oh my gosh, I am so sorry that, you know, life got busy for me. And I know that you were interested in either learning more or getting started or whatever, wherever our conversation left off. You know, I would love to, you know, continue our conversation. I would love to get you started. You know, and I just blame everything on me. It could have been, I followed up with her. I left a message 3 times and I got crickets. You know, she didn't reach out to me, nothing. But I'm going to pretend that it was me. I'm so sorry. I know you were interested, you know, in something, you know, and a lot of times that's when they'll respond. So. Okay, so one of the things I think that I'm going to change a little bit to like the business, and I'm looking forward to hearing how some of you all respond to this. And I don't get this that often, but I think it's a holdup for new reps sometimes because they feel funny about selling to their friends and making money on their friends. And there's, you know, a question in here that says, why isn't Juice Plus sold in stores? You know, why is it sold the way it's sold? And I think so. I don't really get that question that often, but I think sometimes what I see is in my reps' brains, they're asking the questions because they want to know how to get past that.
Karen, can I say something?
Yeah.
I think it boils down to belief. I mean, I can remember in the beginning being terrified at the last people that I wanted to know were my friends and family. I was great with strangers, but I think once your belief in the company becomes, or the product becomes so big that the money piece doesn't even cross your mind. So you're just openly talking to people. You know, I got a message the other day from a friend and it made me laugh because he said, I don't know if this helps you or not with your Juice Plus thing, but here, and he sent me pictures of his labs, how much they drastically improved between October to January. And I didn't once think, oh my gosh, I'm making money off of him. Now, in the beginning, I would have thought, oh my gosh, I feel terrible, you know, making money off of him. So I think it comes with time, it comes with maturity in the business and just really believing that what we have is fantastic.
That's so important. That's so important because it's all about the belief. It's all about the belief. And so that's why when I am with a new partner, I ask them, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, what their number is for belief, the 5 beliefs, and then always give a resource to shore up those beliefs. Because if you knew, well, first of all, if you had a restaurant, would you feel bad if they came to your restaurant and paid for the food that they bought? No. You're making money off of them, but it just doesn't feel the same. So if you're in, then again, like Wendy Campbell says, how could I not? How dare I not give this to them, because I know it could help them so much. And how many people are sick and even dying for lack of knowledge, for lack of what we have. We have such a gift. So when we take our minds off of what we think about ourselves and what people are thinking about us, and put our minds on how they could be helped by what we have, and how important it is that they have what we have, then it becomes the opposite. It becomes, oh my gosh, I gotta tell them. How can I not? I would be remiss not to tell them, to share it. But that takes, of course, it takes some time to get to have that kind of belief. But that's why we have all of those videos. And, we have so many things to shore up our belief.
I don't know if
Go
go ahead.
I was going to say, in answer to the question about the store thing, what I've said in the past was that the Juice Plus company has a mission to inspire healthy living around the world, and that they've found that it is much more efficient to do that through word of mouth, and they'd rather take all the advertising money and give it to people who are helping them to spread the word. So that's how I answer that question, or if a new person wants to know how to answer that question.
I love that, because it is. Juice Plus would be way more expensive if you could get it at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or something like that, because you're cutting out the middleman. They have advertising, they have brick and mortar expenses. So I sometimes will bring that up.
Can I say something really quick? Would you mind if I say answer that too? I love that answer, but I also heard too that education is a big thing with Juice Plus, and that's why it will never be sold in stores also, is because they want Jay Martin wants us to be able to educate people about why it's so important to have fruits and vegetables so they can make better, healthy choices all around. And also, it's part of the company mission statement to help as many people as possible realize their dreams. And so he, in my opinion, wants to sell it in stores either, because of all of us, so that we can actually realize our dreams. And to me, I take that one step further and think of our customers, because coming from a family of sick kids, we couldn't realize our dreams when we were always homesick and on inhalers and giving prednisone. And so I kind of take it one step farther and think of our customers too. And Neilani, I love your answer about selling to friends and family. Just like Wendy said, how can we not share this? It's precious gold. And so anyhow, those are my 2 pieces.
And Karen, I want my friends to be as healthy as I am. I tell them, I am as healthy as I could possibly be. And I want you to enjoy that with me. So they know how I feel about that for them.
Does anybody remember, I forget what conference it was at. Oh my gosh, it's still stuck with me. Dr. Mitra Ray was on the stage, and she was saying that she gets her family and friends on it. And she says, well, I can't be friends with you unless you take Juice Plus, because I don't want to be alone when I'm old. She's like, because, you're going to, I'm going to live longer than you. Like, that way she said it was just so funny.
Wow.
Michelle, I know that you were unmuted. Did you want to say something?
Oh, I did. I was going to type it in. Okay, so at church yesterday, the message was about serving. And one thing that the pastor said that really resonated with me was, he said, if you know who you are, then you have no problem serving other people. And I feel like it boils down to that. Exactly what Nalani was saying is your belief. And there's several beliefs that we have to have in this business, but the number one belief has to be in yourself. And if you know yourself and the reason why you're sharing this, then you wouldn't hold back from people. And I think that was why I came in so strong, because I knew it wasn't about me. I was just like, how in the world can I share this with others? instead of thinking, oh, what are they going to think of me? It's not about me. It's about what it could do for other people. So when you have that belief in yourself, then you're going to want to share it with the world. So that may take time and confidence, or you may come in with that, already, but it depends on where you are. So if you're not as confident, you're going to want to pour into ways to build your confidence.
I love that. I love that. Okay, the last thing, because oh my gosh, I always start out this going, what am I going to talk about for an hour? So one of the questions I got asked last night, and I answered it, and she was okay with it, but I want to see if you guys have anything that I might be able to steal in the future, any better answers, is she's like, this isn't going to auto renew or anything, like I'm not going to keep getting shipments. So the question is Juice Plus sold using an automatic reorder program?
Oh, I love that one. Can I answer that one?
Yeah.
Well, I always say, because they see that on the website when they do sign up, that it says it's an automatic shipment. I always say that it's my job to make sure that it doesn't automatically ship on its own unless you're ready. So I always check in with you throughout the experience to make sure that number one, you're eating your Juice Plus consistently and that you're having a positive result or good experience. And if not, I try and do my best to see, how I can help. Like if, my customers, if they can't remember to take their Juice Plus, they have the capsule holders or the magnet, or if they're experiencing detox, then what can they do? So I always say, I always check in throughout the process 2 or 3 times to make sure, and I will always check with you before it reships. So then they feel comfortable with that. But I will say that I also am that terrible representative that I've been like in the middle of the night hyperventilating because something is going to reship the next day, and I call corporate and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a shipment going out today, please. And they're always so helpful. But I seem to kind of downplay and reassure them that I will not let it ship. It is my job to make sure that they're ready for the next shipment.
Yep, that's perfect. And they can even set up their own customer portal. So last night I mentioned that to her, and I said, and look, I said, you have control over the order as well. You can set up your own customer portal and you can delay, whatever. So I think that helps to ease people's minds as well. I don't know if anybody else has anything else they say. Sandy's answer was so good. We got nothing else. Sandy, that's remarkable. All right. Does anybody have, let me see if there's any other really good questions for the business. I know we've answered this one before. I know we've talked about this one before, and I think of Stacy with her questions. So when somebody says, is that Juice Plus, is that one of those pyramid schemes, or is that one of those, marketing, MLM companies? I know what question I asked, but what do you guys think? Crickets.
I think the same thing with what Stacy says is questions. Why do you ask that? It's not, why do you ask that? So I always want to know what their reasoning is. Like, they must have had a bad experience and they have something specific in mind. I'm sure whatever they have in mind is not what we're doing.
And what I'll say is, first of all, pyramid schemes are illegal, and that Juice Plus is a unique business model. And I felt, when I first learned about Juice, I bring it back to myself and how I felt when I first started, how I didn't understand it. And I said, and now I'm just so incredibly thankful to know that I can get benefits. And they look at me or they'll say, what? And I'll say, yeah, I can go back to college, and so can anyone in my family. There's college tuition and I get all these benefits. And at that point, the question stops. I think they're so enamored with that opportunity that they forget their question.
So one of the other things, and I've experienced it on my team, and you guys know, like Jules, the rock star, she actually is a QNMD, and I'm a senior sales coordinator because she took off and I was kind of stagnant. I was kind of just holding my own. And so I think that's, while at first I will say I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, that isn't good. All of a sudden I went, that's awesome, because now I have a perfect example to give to people. I say, you know what, I have a team member who's above me. This isn't a pyramid scheme, because I have team members, you can actually, if you took off, you could rise above me and be at a higher level than me. So I think, asking the questions, giving them some examples like that are awesome.
Has everyone seen once Doug put a cartoon like comedy thing about how like even working for corporate America is a pyramid. Like I love referencing that. It's funny because I'm like, you always work for someone, like, but we don't have a pyramid. But just even joking around about the fact that everything you do in life, if you're working for the man or working for yourself, like there's always someone that is above you. So what is that any different than doing that through corporate America?
Yeah, I think I have that saved on my phone somewhere.
I love it. It makes me laugh so much.
Well, so that's something else that makes people think, right? They see the pyramid and they see CEO, and I'll say, I worked in corporate America for years. I said, and guess what? I couldn't make it to the top. There was too many, in this company, I can make it to the top. So I think getting people to think again. I'm sorry, Doug, go ahead.
I was going to tell Alicia, if she thinks that's funny, she's got to look for a YouTube clip of The Office and a pyramid scheme. And on the TV show, there's a hilarious scene about that.
I'll be sure to look that up after this.
I'm going to send it to you.
But you have to also be a little bit careful about answering it that way because, pyramid schemes are illegal because they only work because you're bringing somebody else in. And a regular job is not that way. They make their profits elsewhere. But pyramid schemes work because you're bringing they only get paid because of the amount of people that you bring in that are paying. So you just be aware of that as well, because they could come back and be like, well, they're not making their money based on the amount of people that they're getting to pay for something to come in. I just wanted to mention that.
Well, not to come in, but also like I worked in sales. I'd be able to come back at that and say, the company is making money on me working because I'm doing sales.
Right, but you're bringing in sales from a product.
Yeah,
pyramid schemes are when people are paying money to be a part of it, and that's why the top person gets the money.
And there's no product or service.
There's no product or service.
Right.
I just wanted to mention that because I've said that in the past, and then I know people understand. There are people who actually understand the difference and wouldn't be as impressed with the answer.
That's good. I have not had that, but it's always good to have that in the back of your head so you're prepared. Anybody else have anything they want to ask? No? All right.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
I have one thing. Oh. Go ahead.
I just wanted to tell Karen how much you've inspired me because I've been in SC for a very long time. And I think that the way you feel about your journey is really, it's great because we want to feel like we weren't stuck. I mean, I don't feel like I'm stuck. I felt like, I've learned and gained so much. This is my 20th year with the Juice Plus company as a customer and 14 years as a distributor. But I love the way you shared your story and the way your outlook and how much activity you got going. You can't help but get to the next level. So that's really inspiring.
And from your mouth to God's ears.
That's right. I just had one question, Karen, about your pipeline. How often do you reach out to people in your pipeline that have heard about Juice Plus, but have not ordered from you yet, and they're still on your list?
So it just depends. I have a ton, like hundreds and hundreds of people that I've met at health fairs, right? And those are like the cold market. And so I don't put a lot of time into them. I'll do a text blast or I'll do an email blast. And every now and then, always a couple times a year, I'll get somebody, they're like, oh, you're still doing Juice Plus, and I'm ready. And I think I mentioned on one of the lunch and learns that I think that I had, in my mind, I had told myself that everybody knew I was doing Juice Plus, right? So I wasn't going to get any more friends. I wasn't going to get, they already know about it. If they wanted it, they would have already contacted me. So I was killing myself doing all these health fairs, which I do enjoy, but I was doing a lot of them. And when COVID hit and it stopped, all of a sudden I thought, oh my gosh. And that May Blitz really kicked my butt because it made me reach out onto Facebook. It made me reach out to like real people. And it really was more about the relationships. It's much harder. The people that I lose are the people I meet at health fairs, right? It's hard for me to build a relationship with them sometimes. So how often do I reach out to them? Honestly, I have so many people in that pipeline that unless somebody, so I just spoke to somebody on Saturday that I'd been speaking to for, a few months. He's, oh my gosh, I don't know what he is. He's in his 30s and he's got diabetes. His sister at 28 years old died from diabetes. So I've kind of grabbed onto him in my mind and gone, oh my gosh, I just want to help him. But I don't want to scare him that I'm following up with him so much. And so I followed up with him a few months ago and he's like, look, I'm really busy. I'm moving. And I said, great, you know what? I'll call you in January. And so I just had to let it go. And I kind of forgot about it. And I put it in the calendar and I contacted him and we spoke this past Saturday. And, I talked to him. He still wasn't quite ready, but you have to, if you've got that many people, I can't even say. So I think that if somebody seems like they're on the fence, I'm obviously following up with them, or if I've sent them a video, I'm writing it in my calendar because I don't remember it all, right? I put it in my calendar, follow up with Nanette, on Thursday because I sent her a video about asthma or whatever it is. And then I, just send a quick message. I will say that with the Ditch the Pitch and with the Lunch and Learn last week is I have been relying on texting so much more that I need to go back to calling and I need to go back to using the phone. That was one of my big aha moments last week. Texting is working, I'm getting customers, Facebook Messenger is working, but I got to build a relationship more with my customers and get them on the phone more and not rely on texting. So I don't really have an answer. There's no set,
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions? We will sign off. I always have so much fun seeing everybody's face and hearing from you guys because I always learn from all of these too. That's why I ask you guys questions. I hope you realize that I need more verbiage. I need different verbiage.
This was so helpful. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, this was good.
Thanks, Karen. It was awesome.
All right, I'm going to stop the live stream.
Have a good day.